Hi, my name is Nellie, and today I have just a travel journal flip through. This cover is branded Otto, which you can just get from Officeworks in Australia, but the inserts are replaced with 3 little moleskin inserts. This journal covers, I think, 3 weeks roughly in Europe back in 2022, and throughout I've just put post-it notes over some sensitive information, I guess. This first insert is from the 24th of May to the 5th of June, and the first few days are not applicable at all. So this spread and this spread have nothing to do with traveling. Travel starts from here. And my rule of thumb when I'm traveling is that I take scissors, I take washi tape and different color pens, glue, what have you, but everything else that I stick in or source is from things that I find over there. So like free magazines, free postcards, newspapers, free maps. And I just do the best that I can with what I can find. Some of the things that I stick in are not directly applicable to the things that I did, but sometimes I just try to capture the vibe of the day, the weather, the feelings that I had, just to capture the atmosphere of the travel, because I can't really print photos as I go. I went to an IKEA exhibition in Sweden, which is why you're seeing some IKEA things. I was actually very sick around this time, hence the exotic strepsils. I went to this H22 City Expo in Helsingborg. The expo was actually the main reason I went overseas, and I just tagged a few extra weeks traveling around on the end of it. Here's a primary example of me trying to capture the mood. I was not feeling great this day. On the start of my trip, I was pretty good with keeping up to date because I was sick, so I was spending a lot of time after hours in my hotel room, which gave me plenty of time to write the day that had gone beforehand, but that quickly fell away once I started hanging out with more friends after hours, and I didn't really have time to write and decorate at the end of the day. This spread's pretty funny. In a free magazine that I found, there was a picture of a train wreck, and I was an absolute train wreck that day, so I thought it was very fitting. I think by now I had moved on from Helsingborg to Copenhagen. I went to the Danish Architecture Museum or Centre. And yes, I did go down this slide which they have in the museum. And that's the end of insert 1. This next one is kind of ridiculous. It's only 4 days. I went a bit overboard. So we're still at the Architecture Museum at this point. One of the things I love most about Copenhagen was just being able to ride around the city on their rental bike system. I also love capturing just bits of the local language, even if I have no idea what they're talking about. So I went from Copenhagen to Hamburg by train. I stayed in Hamburg for one night. I went to the miniature wonderland in Hamburg, and I thought it was actually quite a lot of fun. Don't need to be a kid to enjoy miniature things. I also loved that they had a newspaper for the happenings of what was going on in that miniature wonderland, which I thought was hilarious. My German isn't so good, so I couldn't really understand it, but I could appreciate it nonetheless. I then went from Hamburg to Cologne, where I stayed with a friend for a few days. I was trying to capture some German vibes. You can guess that that was probably a rainy day. My friend had a cat named Dr. Watson. I visited the beautiful Cologne Cathedral. And then I've slotted in some full articles from the Miniature Wonderland newspaper so that one day maybe I know enough German to be able to read it, but otherwise that's the end. Insert 2, and this is the last one, which goes from the 9th of June to the 17th of June. This was very cute. This was a little free art information piece about a fountain that I went to. I went to see Sigrid by myself in Cologne. She was amazing and flawless. It's me trying to capture the vibes of her concert. I then flew from Cologne to Edinburgh, where I met up with a friend to do a little bit of travelling in Scotland together. This was the Sun, which I took out a few articles that meant something. Unfortunately, we were following Harry Styles around Scotland at the time, so accommodation was scarce and expensive. So we did one night in Edinburgh, one night in Glasgow, and then one night in Edinburgh again, which I would not recommend if you're hauling around a ginormous suitcase. And this here is the only photo in the entire journal, which is me and my friend who I met up to travel around Scotland with. I bought my nephew back home, who was one at the time, a tiny little kilt, because he's mostly Scottish, or his ancestry is mostly Scottish, and I thought it was adorable. Me and my friend took the train from Edinburgh down to Manchester, and we did a day trip to Liverpool. So my friend was staying in Manchester at the time. Living in Melbourne, I'm not a fan of the UK's public transport system. I found it very confusing that there were different operators, and if you bought one ticket and the train was cancelled, you couldn't get on the next train because it wasn't the same operator. It was very confusing. This here is my friend's business card. I had to block out the entire thing. The menu, well, part of the menu from our last dinner together before it was time for me to fly back to Melbourne. And that's it. That's the end. This is my agenda for the 3 weeks that I had to give to my husband so he would know where I was. But that's it. Very excessive for 3 weeks. I would not recommend. This is not realistic to be able to keep up to date with, and I definitely finished quite a lot of the last few days when I was back at home. But that's it. That's my travel journal flip through. Hopefully I've somewhat inspired you to do your own, but yes, heed my advice. This is too much for one person, especially for 3 weeks. Maybe 6 months, this might have been more realistic, but I couldn't stop writing and I was having too much fun decorating. Thank you for joining me on this flip through. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.